What's up, everyone? I'm Matt at MattMolecule. So I've been in the biohacking PD peptide space for about 4 to 5 years now. I started off using GH in high school to get taller, and it kind of brought me down the whole rabbit hole. So I've gotten into, PEDs, peptides, all sorts of stuff. Just here to share knowledge, research. I try and take a very science-based approach to everything, just going off of the studies and then just using common sense from there on.
Awesome. And Gunner, if you could go ahead again as well.
Yeah, I'm GunnerPharma on TikTok. I'm gonna start uploading on YouTube, but I started with like peptides, specifically Retta, around 2 years ago, and then just kind of cascaded into like full biohacking, like cognitive enhancement, using roids, using androgens for growth, and yeah, that's it.
All right, and I am Biomaxxer. I make content about PEDs, peptides, nootropics, and all things biohacking. This is Pharmaverse podcast episode 3 with MattMolecule and GunnerPharma. What's up, guys? Biomaxxer here with a quick commercial break. Unfortunately, I screwed up the audio for the first 20 minutes of the podcast, so that's why we are starting in the middle of a sentence, and we're talking about gyno, how to mitigate gyno, what causes gyno in men, and we're also talking about Gunner's planned gyno surgery. So that's why we started off just in the middle of a topic. I'm kind of an IQ lit apparently, but we do have a lot of good content for you guys today, so stay tuned. It's going to be a good one. We're with MattMolecule and GunnerPharma, and this is the Pharmaverse podcast. Quick PSA, this is not medical advice. This is for strictly entertainment and educational purposes only in Minecraft and GTA 5, strictly theoretical. Let's get into it. I find that quite interesting because, like, the fact that a surgeon would completely, like, leave tissue in there that could just, flare up again four times, like, that's crazy to me.
A horrible surgeon. I mean, I don't know how maybe it's really difficult to get it all, but I mean, it's kind of the goal of the surgery is to permanently get rid of it. And it's not like a zero downtime thing either, from what I've seen. So it's a huge pain in the ass if you're going through all that and then it comes back. Interestingly, I've used, as I was saying, decent bit of tren and MENT, done my fair share of cycles with both. And the only time I've ever gotten gyno is with just tren. MENT, no problem, even using MENT and tren at the same time on one cycle. I mean, obviously it's different every time, other things at play, but I've never gotten any gyno flare-ups at all from MENT. So I think, I don't know, this hasn't been confirmed. There is one study done on it, on MENT's 7-alpha methylestradiol, which attempted to see the different affinities for ERB and ERA with that form of estrogen. And if you don't know, ERB and ERA are two different types of estrogen receptor, and they both act differently as far as their propensity to cause a gyno flare-up. And there wasn't like an exact conclusion, but it did seem to be the case that MENT's 7-alpha methylestradiol seems to be pretty biased towards one of the two. And if I had to guess, just anecdotally, it would be biased towards estrogen receptor beta, which is less prominent to cause gyno. So that could be partially why. And then I would also just add in, like, another interesting thing with MENT and its estrogen is I think compared to testosterone, you're getting more anabolic signaling for less estrogenic signaling with MENT. And so you can just run it to whatever dose is needed to get the necessary. I mean, there's another conversation of whether you should run MENT as a standalone or not, but you can run whatever dose necessary to get the threshold you need to have sufficient estrogen signaling. And then, you're getting more anabolic signaling than what you'd be doing with testosterone for the equivalent estrogenic signaling. Wow. Kind of a mouthful, but you get the point. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually why Masteron is like protective against gyno, is because it actually, like Masteron obviously works as serum blocking estrogen at some points, but
yeah, ERB,
ERB and ERA seems to block, but it's obviously kind of bad for collagen synthesis. That's why, like, I don't really recommend if you're not bodybuilding, because those collagens like ERA and ERB are needed for collagen synthesis and play a big role. But obviously blocking those is obviously going to result in way less gyno. That's why kind of Masteron is protective against gyno in a sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, very, very. That's like, I would say there's another thing we should go over maybe briefly is if you get a gyno flare up and you're not going to get the surgery, or you don't plan on doing so in the absolute future, you want to try and mitigate it. What's the best approach? I think MAST is a great approach. And I think meloxifene, which is a non-blood barrier penetrative serum. Those are the two best things you can use to counter it, apart from basics like vitamin P5P, and maybe Biomaxxer. I know you're pretty well versed on like D2 superagonists, maybe use well Gunner. I'd be curious to hear what you guys think of like people using Caber or pramipexole to counter the prolactin stuff from 19 North. I think it's really stupid.
I mean, if you're gonna pick between the two, I would definitely be more biased toward pramipexole because it doesn't have affinity for 5-HT receptors in the heart.
Yeah.
And I think no, the studies on cabergoline having cardiotoxic effects were very high doses, but
For years.
yeah, but you're also in a state of high adrenergic stress anyway, cardiac remodeling. So I think it just becomes like an extra lever in the wrong direction.
Agreed.
I've talked to a few people that would call cabergoline like a really bad drug and say they have negative reactions on it, and then they try pramipexole and they don't have a problem. And I think Prami's main issue is always going to be like that hyperhedonic sort of manic like behavior. And I mean, you hear all the case stories of people that are like, oh, I ruined my family on pramipexole, it's like an evil drug, I gambled away my life savings and stuff like that. But
a couple lawsuits on that.
Yeah, for sure. So I would say it's like something you definitely want to avoid if you have a very like impulsive personality, or you're like have a high addictive personality. But I think for a certain subset of people, like it really wouldn't be a problem in that regard. Like I've taken pramipexole and it's like I never had any sort of urge to like fuck up my life in any way, you know what I mean? And I know that's just like anecdotal, but I would say that you really want to like avoid going the route of D1, D3 PAMs, or going for like specifically the cabergoline and pramipexole route. I haven't really looked deeply into other drugs in this.
They're both D2 super agonists, if I recall correctly. I think they both have some affinity for D1 and D3, either as agonists or PAMs or something like that. But
yeah, I think they're
another
PAMs.
thing is, yeah, or maybe one is for one. I don't know. They're a little bit different for each of them. I've used both. Would I do that in the future or recommend it? No, not at all. I would say, like what you were saying about the impulsivity and recklessness, you have to remember also people are using these basically as an ancillary to usually trends. So already you're stacking the cards pretty high in one direction, and so you really don't need. And I think a lot of the trend horror stories could be explained by cabergoline, or less popular, but pramipexole being used in conjugation with it. I think those are probably more likely to cause those kind of manic symptoms that people report on trend than trend itself. And I would just not recommend it at all. I just don't think it's something that is like a cognitively beneficial, because D2, there's two dopamine D2 receptors, D2 short and D2 long. And they're both, Caber and Prami are both super agonists at D2 short. And I'm pretty sure that's the one that downregulates really fast. So what happens is you take Caber, you do your trend cycle, you take Caber for a few weeks, or Prami or whatever, get rid of your prolactin, you feel better, whatever, you decide to come off trend. You're going to feel like shit for a couple of weeks at least, because you've just downregulated your dopamine D2 receptor pretty heavily, and now you're removing Caber with the trend. So that's just another thing to note. And I've gone through that whole, up and down mood swing process a couple times playing around with Caber and Prami. Wow. So just don't recommend it.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, I would feel like you would have to like really go about it in an intelligent manner to try to prevent that like horrific mood swing effect, because like you're coming off trend, you want to feel better, like you want to feel
exactly not withdrawing from pramipexole is I don't know if it's off label, but it's used as an antidepressant. So now you're basically giving yourself an antidepressant withdrawal and trend with coming off your system.
Yeah, it also treats restless leg syndrome, so I wonder if that could be like something you start dealing with after you come off it. it too. Yeah, it's like Parkinson's side effect is restless leg syndrome, so that's what they use Prami for. So yeah, I mean, I could see that being pretty rough. But what would you say, other than just like P5P and some of the other compounds you mentioned, if you've got like very high prolactin, I mean, what would be the rescue agent that you could use instead of like a D2 superagonist?
Good question. I mean, this is not like a rescue agent necessarily. I mean, I would say the best, like if you really are desperate, and you're just reaching for anything, I'd probably reach for like high doses of mast, honestly, and normal oxyphene. Again, like those two things are gonna fix the downstream. But then not necessarily fix prolactin, but progesterone receptor agonism increases sensitivity to prolactin and kind of causes a lot of those issues that people will report as high prolactin. And a lot of times you get like the high prolactin symptoms on trend, and it's actually relatively normal on blood work, and it's because you have this background progestin signaling happening, which obviously you're not measuring that on blood work. You can't measure trend binding to the progesterone receptor. But a little trick that you can use is, we were talking about this earlier, but thyroid hormone replacement. Pretty much if you add in like a full T4 replacement, 100 micrograms of thyroxine, what that's going to do is crash your thyroid releasing hormone, TRH, which is like upstream of TSH, not very well known about, but TRH increases prolactin. Obviously, you're kind of like shutting down your thyroid with the negative feedback signaling by adding in T4. And so lowering that TRH will downstream lower your prolactin.
Interesting. I had no
Yeah.
idea about that. That's very interesting. I feel like, yeah, people really jump. I feel like people fear gyno so much that they would take like even the most toxic drug to get rid of the chance of gyno, because like gyno is like just like the one of the worst things that could
Yeah, it's
happen.
permanent. Yeah.
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
like hair loss, is arguably you can regrow that with protocols. I think if you actually grow gyno tissue, like, I've seen some freaking like topical DHT, like random
Yeah.
bullshit strategies to try and get rid of gyno. But I think if you have like actual gyno tissue growth, your only option is surgery, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once you have the tissue, you can catch the flare up. But once you have the tissue, like I've literally tried everything. I've done high dose raloxifene. I've tried, and it does shrink the gland a little bit. But once you have the tissue, you literally have to get surgery. It's breast tissue. You literally can't do
Yeah.
anything else.
Yeah.
And Gunner, from what I've heard, it's like one day you'll wake up and it'll be like super sensitive, and the next day you'll wake up and you're like, oh, it's not that bad, and then you see it from like an angle, and you're like, fuck, the guy
Oh,
knows that.
yeah.
Like,
No,
have you
dude,
experienced that?
I didn't get it from roids. Like I wasn't doing anything. I was letting my estrogen go super high. Like I literally just got it when I was a kid, when I got fat, because
Yeah.
obviously the estrogen receptor is expressed in fat tissue. But yeah, no, it's just like it doesn't look good in t-shirts. You know what I mean? Like it's just like it's kind of just like embarrassing to a thing. And like I'm just happy that I'm getting rid of it like now. And like it just like the surgery is expensive. It's costing me around $7.5 grand. So just do anything you would to try to not
Yeah,
get
just think
like,
about paying that seven and
and
a
you
half
have to take a
grand. Yeah.
month off of the gym too, around there, before you can even do chest exercises. You
Yeah.
have to walk around with like these things attached to you that have blood in them. Like it's a whole thing. You have to, and also you have to go.
What about scarring?
What?
Scarring, is there like a scar after as well?
Not really. It's depending on your surgeon. If you have a good surgeon or not, they will like make it look like using by the fat grafting and stuff, make it look like completely fine. You can get a good surgeon that will do that. But yeah, it is like a little bit of a risk. But yeah, you're off the gym for a month. You can't even do like cardio for like 2.5 weeks. So it's just a whole thing where you have to stop everything. And obviously, like before people, if you get any procedures that you have to go under anesthesia, you need to be like on low TRT and no growth hormone, because they will count the extra weight as body weight. Because obviously a normal human isn't carrying 16 to 17 pounds of extra water, and they will literally kill you with anesthesia because they're giving you so much more than your actual like body weight that's not water. So
Yeah.
I would say, because I have to be like literally on like 140 test, no growth hormone when I go and stop
Fuck.
the week before.
Dude, someone out there is gonna watch this and be like, "Oh, so I'll just take a bunch of indapamide and I'll be good."
Yeah, great idea. Just right before the surgery.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I posted on my story. I was like talking about how like, how a lot of people keep asking me, they're like, yo, when are you gonna get plastic surgery? It's like, because I make like 10% of my content is like looks maxing. And I was like, you know, I'd always said that there's like a few small procedures I want to do. And I was like, well, I have to like come off steroids first, you know? And people were like, why? Why do you have to come off steroids? That makes no sense. I'm like, yeah, bro, go under general anesthesia while you're on cycle. Like that
Yeah.
sounds like a fantastic idea. Like,
no, like if you're actually running big cycles, especially like high growth hormone, like it literally can kill you. Like there's actually a decent chance.
well, not only that, but
Well,
you're on these medications like beta blockers and telmisartan and diuretics, and like all these medications are going to interact with anesthesia as well. Like you want to really like bring that, like if you tell your surgeon or your anesthesiologist, you're like, yeah, I'm on this drug and that drug and this drug and that, and they're going to be like, we're
they're
not.
not gonna know. Yeah, they're not gonna take the risk at all. And there's
Yeah.
so many other things too, like apart from the anesthesia, making cuts in the body. Like if you have high blood pressure or you're on anything that's like a blood thinner, you can bleed out and die just like that. You know, that's another risk. If you're using Accutane for whatever looks maxing ancillary purpose, like that totally changes the way that your skin heals from those cuts, and you can scar really badly. Like it's typically not recommended to undergo any surgery within 6 months of running Accutane. So that's another thing. There's so many considerations that just basically anytime you get surgery, there's a risk something can go wrong. And the more androgens, growth hormone, whatever medications you're on at the time, the greater that risk is going to be. So it's just not a smart thing to do. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of weight, like, you know, with that being said, if you're really in a position where it's like, fuck, like my guy, I'm waking up every day and my gyno's getting worse, like, I don't know what to do. I mean, maybe this is a hot take. I don't know if you guys would agree, but damn near like just stop first of all, stop using what it is that's causing it. Second, like damn near like crashery too, just to stop it from getting any worse. Like, fuck, I mean, if it's going to be that or surgery.
Yeah, I would say you kind of got to take some drastic measures there for sure. Like, without a
Exactly. I
doubt.
mean, short-term discomfort is not going to be as bad as what Gunner was talking about, $7,000 month of downtime, all that.
Yeah,
No,
seriously.
I wish I did everything to prevent it before I did. I just like if you guys are going to run a cycle or anything, I just please have some type of serum on hand, like raloxifene, tamoxifen. What was the one you were talking
Or
about?
meloxifene, guys.
Yeah.
This is this is the best serum you can use for something like gyno. It doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier, so it's not going to restart your whole hormone cascade HPTA axis, HPT axis. It's you know, also not going to have a lot of the typical mental side effects that come with serums from, you know, fucking with the estrogen receptors in your brain, because it's not crossing the blood-brain barrier. It's used as a non-hormonal birth control in India and women. It doesn't like, you know, affect hormone levels. There's no like reported mental side effects from it. And it's used for that case in India. So, you know, this is easily the most tolerable thing you can use as far as serums if that's your goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. A lot of people have been talking about like which serum is the best, raloxifene, tamoxifen. I don't think anyone's ever mentioned ormeloxifene that I know
No,
of. So
I've never
that's,
heard about it.
yeah, that's going to be a gem. I think people are going to need to look into. But yeah, gyno is
Total
fucking
gem.
brutal. Gyno is brutal, dude. Now, what else do you guys think is like the absolute worst side effect that beyond just the neurotoxicity, the gyno, that people are just not really considering as, you know, that bad or something they got to worry about?
Good question. I mean, the off the top of your head, you would just say something like acne or hair loss. I mean, those are just the typical ones. I mean, both of those are pretty easily countered and prevented. I mean, apart from that, it's stuff that I would say you may or may not notice a decade down the road, like cardiac hypertrophy. I mean, you know, those are really the only things I can really come up with that's going to be like damage or side effects from tren or 19-ors or androgens.
Now, do you guys ever plan to do like ultrasounds and imaging and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to down the line. I mean, I'm already pretty health conscious. I'm not pushing like super high cycles. Like I'm keeping up on antioxidants, things like that. And like I'm not running. Like a lot of people are addicted to gear in the community and are not coming off. Like I doubt some of the people in the community are ever going to come off to full TRT, nothing else. And I mean, I keep up my antioxidants. I want to get organ imaging, everything like that. My blood work is really ideal. I really almost never had anything out of the reference range besides like my total and free testosterone. Obviously, my HDL has been. I think like my blood work, honestly, even on cycle, I got blood work, and the only thing out of range was, besides free and total testosterone, which is obviously I wanted that to happen, was that my HDL was low. Not a single other marker was out of range. And I think like a lot of people in the space just dump everything into roiding and using like the most insane cycles to try to look big and like outcompete.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think you're going to thank yourself. And obviously a lot of people in the community are younger too and don't have like critical thinking skills. Be like, oh, I might regret this when I'm 40 years old and like want to have a family.
And it's addicting.
Yeah. And it's like, it's really, it takes like, I'm not even like, it takes mental power to go no growth hormone, go on TRT when you're just regressing and almost kind of re-progress in a sense where you almost look a little bit softer than you did. You look softer than you did on cycle. It's kind of like a mind fucking away. And if you don't have your brain being fully developed, or you can't really like acknowledge that that's going to happen, you are going to significantly take years off your life. And I think people need to just go down to TRT sometimes for like at least 3 to 4 months before upping it. And it's going to make your cycles more effective too.
Yeah, exactly. Resensitize the androgen receptor. I mean, I'm just going to say on this a few things. Like it's easy to get in that whole mindset, a cascade, you know, obviously everyone starts with TRT and that kind of thing. And it turns into chasing a look and social media and all these like super aesthetic guys, which by the way, like, you know, these influencers you see that are like shredded, you know, 10% body fat, just like perfect build. You know, like it's hard. It takes a lot of work. A lot of them are running high cycles, but you know, a giant portion of that is the fucking lighting and the camera and the angle. Like you can have a phenomenal physique, perfect pump, shredded. Like I've had like, you know, insane pumps, very shredded, like freaking, you can see like, you know, spider web veins all through the lat, chest, abs, everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I take out my phone and I look like a fucking bum because it's like not good lighting. And these guys, they're masters at getting perfect cameras, all that shit. And so you're seeing in the most perfect lighting, perfect angle, perfect pump. And you see that and you just think, oh, I'm not there. How do I get there? Increase my doses, add more gear. That's not the solution most of the time. Like most of the time, y'all are, you know, people with that kind of thought process can have a lot of work to do with their diet and their training and their, you know, cardio. Those three things are basic pillars. And Gunner, you said something recently in one of your videos, which I really like, which is if you're not doing like fasted cardio, you know, while on cycle, you're freaking damaging yourself. Like people are so lazy. Most gear users are basically just normal gym goers, and normal gym goers like these, you know, in 2026 are just like average people showing up, grabbing some weights, lifting them and going and eating like a cheeseburger after. And now they're on gear. So, you know, it's like you add this stuff in, you have to be the certain kind of person who can, you know, actually be able to sit there and say like, all right, I'm going to commit to doing something like almost every day to keep myself healthy while doing this. Like, you know, you can't just drop the ball on yourself while on cycle. It's not how it works.
Yeah. And like, for example, like your VO2 max, which is like basically your oxygen comparing capacity while doing working thing, that is like the single one marker of overall longevity. So if you're doing nothing, you're sitting on your ass all day, your heart is growing. And obviously if you, what's it called? Athletes' hearts growth, but they grow in a good way. Obviously not what Roy's are doing with their left ventricle hypertrophy. And I just, you know, obviously you're gonna get extra fat loss because a lot of people on cycle, you obviously are doing growth hormone. You're going to have elevated levels of free-form fatty acids. You're going to get a little bit of fat loss out of the fasted cardio too. And it's going to literally help with every single cascade mechanism in your body. And like when you're taking gear, like you just have to tell yourself, like, I'm taking an extra like step. Like I got to make sure that I'm tracking my macros and micronutrients and doing fasted cardio. Like you need to take these little extra steps because you took a little bit of extra step and then you know it's going to damage your health. So you need to be doing things to prevent it, to at least, I'm not even saying like, oh, you need to be like super pro longevity, but at least in some regard, trying to like make it not deleterious to your health, not running like, I've known people in this community that are running like 50 micrograms of T3 year round.
Yeah, no, it's just unless that's just full thyroid replacement, you're doing T3 monotherapy, which I'm against. But like, it's just so lazy. It's so lazy. You take your 50 micrograms of T3, then you're going to go ahead and eat an extra. You know, you could literally just eat like 30 grams, 20 grams less dietary fat, and boom, same effect. Like the diet, the cardio, it's the shit that people don't want to do. They don't want to dial it in. And most people are not. And it's the thing that's actually going to make the biggest difference in your physique too, not how many milligrams you're running. Like, you know, I can see across the board people using high doses of gear, and there is no like across the board look that they're all achieving. Like, you know, I think you guys are both in my server. We're in a couple of the same servers on Discord and stuff. We've seen some of these people running, gram, 2 grams of gear, and they look like a Teletubby, for example, like just straight up, like doesn't look like they even go to the gym kind of thing. I've seen it many times, TikTok, Discord, anecdotes, that kind of stuff. And you're never going to find across the board people who are eating a like ideal diet for muscle hypertrophy and fat loss, and people who are doing like an ideal amount of cardio for that, and then training ideally, and then not looking good. If you're tracking your calories, doing cardio, eating properly, across the board, everyone who does that, you're not really considering a starting point. Obviously, if you start 350 pounds, it's going to take time, but across the board, you're going to get a good look out of that. And that's not the case with gear. So if you think that gear is the limiting factor, I guarantee you it's not. And until you are able to completely dial in those 3 things, you should not be thinking about, raising your milligrams, raising your cycle as a means to improve your physique.
Yeah, completely agreed. And you see these guys on TikTok that say things like DNR side effects and like all this stupid shit,
Yeah,
dude.
and then that's why the space gets a bad rap.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, it's pretty simple. It's like we know how to do things like track calories and track your sleep and
Yeah,
eat the
so
right
easy.
foods. It's like, dude, any natural athlete can do these things. Like this is like basic stuff in the bodybuilding community. And people just think it's like not important. They're like, "Oh, I'm on gear. Why do I have to care about that?" It's like, "Well, dude, you have to
Yeah,
care
no,
about
the
that 10
gear is
times
the
more."
excuse to not exactly. Gear is the
Hmm.
excuse to not care about it. Like it's
Yeah.
just laziness.
Yeah, I just think gear adds so many complexities to your life, and people think they're like prepared to handle that, but most people really aren't.
Well, they don't even realize it. They think it's like, oh, well, I'll just add it in and I gain more muscle. And you can think however you want and do
Hmm.
whatever you want with your cycles and stuff, but like, it's just then when you run into problems and stuff, this is the stuff that makes or breaks that and prevents it.
Yeah. Now, Matt, what a quick little tangent. A couple of my viewers like had asked me to ask you this. Like, so I think a lot of people that follow you on TikTok, they kind of have like one perspective of you, and then they watch you on like, for example, Molecular's podcast and like some of your other places they've seen you in long form. They're like, holy shit, this is like a different guy. Like he's like so
Hmm.
well spoken and articulate. And I think they see it's kind of like your videos are kind of like tweets, right? They're like really punchy, and they're kind of, I wouldn't call them like engagement bait, but they definitely have an
No,
element
I
of
wouldn't
like,
be upset with that
yeah.
name. Like some of them are, are engagement based. I'm not
So
even gonna lie.
I mean, it's like I think it's a really effective formula, but like, what do you think about that? Like, what are you driving for with some of these posts, and how do you feel about like the way that I think a lot of people are like when they see you in long form, they have this whole like perspective shift of what they think of you.
Yeah, great question. So a lot of these, like, I am trying to kind of shift my content towards more educational stuff, more serious. Obviously, I'm always going to have, the same personality on TikTok for the most part, but I do want to put out more educational content and that kind of stuff. And I think that the main thing is I just don't really do very many talking videos. So you don't really see the articulate bits. And
Hmm.
what I'm kind of gunning for is, I know I've had some posts like with just like absurd cycles or absurd takes. And I'm not, it's not like necessarily I'm just making shit up just to like spark controversy. But I do think you kind of have to step outside like the lines of what most people think when it comes to gear and that kind of stuff. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do there, is kind of just disrupt the mainstream thinking with gear, with the whole PED community and that kind of stuff. And some of it is a little bit I would say a little bit hyperbolic as well. It's just for shit's sake because you have to be on TikTok. But I definitely want to start, putting out more kind of educational content and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I think people hearing that perspective, I think will be good for, because people like will come up to me and they'll be like, Oh, dude, like I watch Matt on Molecular's podcast, and it's like he's so well spoken. I don't get why I don't get his content. Like it's like a mismatch. Or people like they like your content because it's like kind of divisive. It's like people,
Yeah, very.
yeah, like some people get angry at it. And I've dealt with the same thing on like my tweets on X, because like you can only be so like
Yeah,
detailed and
yeah,
thorough,
exactly.
and people just get
And you
so
can only
angry.
appeal to some people, and if you're just sitting there saying, I'm never gonna like personally, I'm never gonna sit there and say, how can I appeal to this audience or that audience? It's
Hmm.
just my personal opinions and whatever feels right in the moment, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I think you guys should consider getting on X, because like it's a platform where I think you can really grow on if you're in like the biohacking community. And X is like pretty good exposure. Those people, they're angry. They'll reply they'll
Oh,
reply
Oh
you.
yeah,
I look
You
at tweets and like people are just like they sit there all day just angry at the world, dude. Like
Oh
they're
yeah.
oh
still
yeah.
waiting to reply to stuff.
I
Yeah.
used to use X a good bit. I had a pretty big account on there, not really related to like so much biohacking stuff, but it's a nice because it's like you don't have to film stuff, so it's really just like a thought pops into your head, you open your phone, you spit it out, and it's like a free canvas just to post your thoughts, your feelings, and that kind of stuff. And on the subject of like biohacking stuff on Twitter, and this is also maybe a good conversation. It's just there's so, especially on Twitter, I find, or I'll say X, but there's so much grift. Any like basically, I would say like anyone with biohacking in their like bio or name is like 99.9% chance they're grifter. And I've been specifically talking about this a little bit on TikTok. I'll give an example. Maybe you guys probably have not heard of this guy, Sam Millsap.
Oh yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've made a couple posts about him, and this is just a prime example for people who don't know of just how the PED and peptide space is being hijacked by people who maybe they have like some interest in peptides, PEDs, biohacking, but like that whatever interest they have there is overridden by just like a desire to monetize and just kind of grift cash. And it's the same shit that you see with biohacking in general, where most people are just selling scam supplements that don't work. And
Like
now it's like, but
that
yeah,
company, like there,
exactly.
I
The
actually
affiliate
saw
peptide, yeah.
I actually saw an account that does peptide launch websites. Like it coaches people on how to launch peptide
Oh
shops.
yeah, I've seen this. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's like they've taken it. They've like if you have it in math, it's like they've turned like a square root from the peptide affiliate scams. Like let's
Dude.
not make a peptide affiliate scam. Let's make a scam course on how to make peptide
Yeah,
affiliate
it's like a
scams.
coach who coaches
Yeah.
coaches, It's like,
That's what Sam Millsap was. So that's why I
yeah.
want it's so funny because he had no knowledge of peptides or PEDs or biohacking at all. He was a guy who his whole brand was selling you a course on how to make money from creating a course. That was his whole
Hmm.
thing. And in the blink of an eye, overnight, he creates this TikTok account called Sam Talks Peps. And I think the same day that he created that account is I think the day he learned what peptides were. And immediately, I'm an expert on peptides, read a code in my bio right here.
Oh
I'm the
my
expert on
God.
it, blah, blah, blah. Like, guys, if you here, look at me. I'm going to show you how to pin your peptides, blah, blah, blah. Like, just in politics, they call these people like a demagogue or something like that. Just someone who every single word out of their mouth, every single thing they say is with the sole intent of just grifting you to their call to action.
Hmm.
So it's like, and it's unfortunate because the space just kind of gets diluted and filled with garbage because of these people that are just here to make money.
Yeah. Have you guys heard of 3PL guys?
Third party logistics.
Yeah, well, I guess that's what it stands for, but in this case, and I don't know if this is like a recent thing, and I'm fine with like exposing this whole side of it, but I've seen so many of these peptide companies, and I'm like, all right, this is started by like a kid in his mom's house.
Yeah,
There's
they got a label printer.
Yeah, but
It's flawed.
there's no way that they are ordering these just countless kits of peptides to their mom's house. And I'm like, how are they doing this? So I started talking to some of these guys, and they're this like, it's like 3plguys.com or something like that, or 3pl.com. And they've got a whole, like, if you scroll down their front page, they've got a whole list about like peptide, like third party warehouse storage, where just all the liability, all the shipping, all the fulfillment just gets funneled into this, and
so you don't touch anything.
You don't have to lift a finger, dude. It's not only drop shipping.
Well, I was about to say, it's not it's not to be confused with drop shipping though. You would still have to order the peptides initially, so you still have to front the cash. It's not like they're just taking your money and buying the vial individually, but they're it's like the equivalent of going to freaking China and buying a 10-pack of GLP-3, and then you ship it to your buddy, and you pay your buddy to go ship it, the individual vials, to everyone who buys it.
Yeah, but it's like so automated and so streamlined that like you could hire someone on Fiverr, or like the thing you were talking about, like the peptide business coach, the peptide vendor coach, and have like a ready-made, WordPress template or whatever, just like ready to go. And then you have that with the 3PL like fulfillment center, and you just like link that together, and literally in like an hour you're done. And then you approach every single creator
Boom, made in
on
the
TikTok.
USA, lab tested peptides.
Yep. And then you're up and running, making 20 grand a month within like a week.
Yeah, I was saying this. I think, like, I don't. This is just a kind of like I don't know if it's true or not, but it's kind of funny. I think the whole peptide space is probably all downstream of 2 to 3 factories in China. 2 to 3 factories in China, and it's just a whole food chain of people buying the raw powder, lyophilizing it into these vials, and then you have like so many different levels to it, of like the Telegram groups, and then all this shit, and the fucking vanilla websites, and then you go all the way down, and you have, like, it's actually crazy the like ways like a normie kind of average person who knows nothing about this stuff is getting shilled in what they're doing to like get these peptides. It's like, I know a friend of mine who has one of these, like, reseller, where they give the bullshit prices because it's people who don't know any better. And he was telling me that one of the services they offer is, it's a reconstitution service. So they add the bacteriostatic water to the vial, because these, average people are so like brainwashed and stupid that they're probably under the impression that you need to be a fucking registered nurse or have like a medical license to add bacteriostatic water to a fucking peptide vial. And so they are charging $100 per vial for reconstitution, and people pay that. People are paying that happily with a smile on their face to add the water to one vial.
I was on a live yesterday, and this guy's like not even joking. He's like, I got my peptides came in a vial. What do I do now? Like, that is and I was like, no, you got to be joking. And he's like, no, he's being 100% serious. I could tell by clicking on his profile photo. Like, imagining that little amount of research before buying something like that. He didn't even know you had to put bacteriostatic water into it. Like, zero idea.
Those are the kind of people that this reconstitution service is made for,
That's crazy. All right,
they take it a step.
I'm sorry to cut you off. I want to switch gears though. That's kind of relevant.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's with the people doing like the very little research, and they're like off the deep end, because I feel like that's been a prevalent theme with this episode. So what do you guys think about the erdafitinib and sevelamer, like phosphate binder kids that are using these like cancer drugs to grow taller? I wanted to ask Matt this specifically because you literally said that you got into like biohacking from like researching ways to grow taller. And so like now, these kids are using like FGFR kinase inhibitors and like like HDAC4 inhibitors and like these crazy compounds. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, great question. I think it's just like, I'm gonna just, first of all, I'm gonna say plain and simple, like, if your growth plates are open and you want to get taller, 18 IUs of growth hormone and 1 milligram of Arimidex or 2 milligrams of letrozole per day Plain and simple. Like that's what the medical literature has clearly established for kids with idiopathic short stature, which are kids who are just short with no medical reason, as a means of safely and effectively getting them to grow taller. Okay, so and the further deep down you go from that, the more like bullshitty it gets and less proven. I mean, the like a lot of these drugs are like genomic pathways, just ridiculous stuff. Used like some of them are used like exclusively as like chemotherapy treatments and things like that, and it's just kind of ridiculous.
It's used a lot in like bladder cancers, stuff like that.
Yeah. Just like very bizarre, obscure. Like, first of all, I don't even know how this stuff is being sourced. Like, probably getting it synthesized from China or something. But it's just so unproven. It's so unnecessary when we have the necessary tools to get taller. I mean, I don't know if some of it comes from a place of like people wanting to try and get taller despite having like fused or basically almost fused growth plates and kind of like trying to pull a rabbit out of a hat in some kind of like crazy scientific marvel to like either reopen their growth plates or some bullshit like that. Which I don't know if that's the case with any of these. Maybe that's the case with the HDAC inhibitors, but like that's not gonna happen, you know? I think it's just it's stupid, it's expensive, it's risky, and it's not gonna work.
Yeah, another thing I wanted to add is that I made a video on this. I went and got not like viral, but like viral essay for the space. But and people were so mad. But I was just saying that like an idiopathic short stature, which is obviously kids are just short. They have no like they're just below the standard deviation for their
just short parents usually, just short parents.
Yeah, or they're not going to be as tall as like one of their parents, and they're able to given like super physiologicals or way above standard deviation amounts of growth hormone. Is that some of them get some slight effects of scoliosis from having an increased level of growth velocity. So in the studies where they use like things like erdafitinib and things like that, they don't actually check up on this. And when you have the growth velocity of things that are like growth hormone that are adding really like centimeters barely every year, and imagine the infradidiib was like I think 15 centimeters within like a short amount of time, and I was like, are they really using like scoliosis checking methods like far in the future? And there's really like not enough evidence to say that they're not going to get scoliosis, which is like really like 20 times the amount of growth velocity when people with idiopathic short stature getting like a few extra centimeters or getting like some type of what's it called scoliosis. So like one of the things I would say like, and it's also like been used in like it's used like 20 children, really low numbers, and that
very obscure, not a lot of data.
Like use proven methods and like the risk for eye flows and things like that, and then people will try to be like, oh, we're gonna use full skin or like these super niche compounds that like inhibit some like one certain enzyme to like some little bit that's like so obscure.
Genomic, weird obscure genomic
like,
changes.
You can literally do that with anything like, oh, like tren upregulates inflammatory cytokines. So I'm gonna take this drug that lowers it 3%. That does everything. Like obviously not some herbal plan is going to aid against you getting scoliosis from growing 14 centimeters in like 3 months.
People are also trying to use tren to grow taller too, which I find quite funny.
Well, that actually, I think that actually makes sense, honestly.
Like, it does, like mechanistically, but the trade-off.
Mechanistically, it makes sense. The only thing is maybe progestin or progesterone receptor agonism might potentiate the effects of estradiol a bit, which might close growth plates quicker. But I don't know. It's crazy.
Well, there is also direct downstream cascades of AR agonism that it speeds up bone age, right? So that would be like cytochrome C, caspase 3 to caspase 9 conversion, and losing the chondro protective benefits of like, for example, so like the drug tamoxifen has been shown to inhibit cytochrome C, and that cascade of
endoxifen, right, or some type of
endoxifen is the active metabolite of tamoxifen. So most of the research just comes from tamoxifen, but then of course you bathe cell cultures in tamoxifen, and then it just destroys everything. So it's like then I think we kind of lost that pathway, and so people are left with, I just must destroy my E2. So I think that potentially could be one of the better targets is like tamoxifen or endoxifen to protect chondrocytes. But when you get into the tier of, and that would be like this like small caveat of like between just using like aromatase inhibitors versus like, what if we use a SERM, perhaps like Masteron, perhaps tamoxifen.
There's some weird like infigratinib or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, it's like because it's just the risk to
Because that supposedly
reward.
keeps the plates open as well, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, because like those drugs, the growth velocity part of it is like you could get that from pretty much like any steroid, like a DHT derivative and growth hormone and all of that, like could really increase your growth velocity, but it also speeds up your bone age at the same time. So that always
Well,
kind of
yeah, but at least you're getting muscle growth and some masculinization.
true.
Because I mean, I think a lot of the hype maxing stuff is like it's kind of been grifted and it's kind of overrun by like, kind of garbage at this point. But I know a lot of these people who are looking to get taller also care about like dimorphism or masculinization, which is what you're getting from GH, from androgens, from that kind of stuff, not from fucking random like Indian uh like
Yeah, I think it's
oncology drugs.
yeah, I think at this point it's like a race. Whoever can find like some of the nichest compound ever that like
Just the
really
newest, yeah, just the
Yes.
some
newest
type of
thing.
like
It's the
It's all
same thing
a
with the
shiny
nootropics
object
community.
syndrome. It's a shiny object syndrome of like,
Hmm.
just the most ridiculous, like it's basically a game of who can type more words that nobody knows what the words mean. And whoever can use more of that is everyone's gonna be, oh, he's a genius. He found the newest cure to fucking growing taller. Like this is it. This is what's gonna get me to 6 foot, tall, whatever, 6'4". It's this random obscure TikTok that has like 10,000 ChatGPT generated medical words that none of which I know what they are. And just because it's so complicated, I'm just going to assume it's smart and right. And another thing, when I first, one of the first posts I made on TikTok actually was about this, which Biomaxxer, I'm sure you've heard of, teriparatide and the other one,
Hmm.
that those two,
Abaloparatide.
abaloparatide, yeah, the
Yeah.
two postmenopausal bone density injection drugs. And that's another thing. Like I know, just on the subject of stupid height maxing stuff, that was very popular. I don't know if it still is, but that was like
Somewhat.
the whole the buzzword thing, the shiny object at one point. And I made a post about it, which it's pretty simple, like why this is so stupid. Because like there's a black box warning on both of them that says do not use this if you're under 18, do not use this if you are still like open growth plates are growing taller. And the reason for that is because it causes osteosarcoma, bone cancer, if like an open growth plate is exposed to it. So basically the entire category of people who are seeking to use it like are literally cannot use it because you will get bone cancer. And they've studied that through rats. And rats, if you didn't know, their growth plates don't close. So they were able to determine that in rats through that research that it causes osteosarcoma. And it's been well established. So it's just such another like idiotic thing that just doesn't even make sense to use at all.
Yeah, and plus, like, a lot of people will ask me, like, do you think parathyroid hormone analogs will make you grow taller? And I'm like, how would we possibly know that? Like, there's
Yeah,
literally,
there's not been any studies on it for that
yeah,
because of the osteosarcoma.
yeah, exactly. So, like, that's just a completely useless target there. But,
It's just assuming anything that increases osteoblast and decreases osteoclast, or vice versa. Just
yeah.
the assumption that that is gonna just across the board like get you to 6 feet.
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Another thing I want to add is like I remember seeing this video is like talking about like height maxing, like when it goes down the iceberg of like niche stuff.
Yeah,
I remember I
exactly.
looked at like obviously the bottom was like it was literally unreadable. It was all like hyphens and stuff of like some niche thing. I look at the first one and it's a rat's femur that grew like 16 inches and just immediately killed it. Like how is that even that doesn't even make any sense? Like you know what I mean? Like just because
yeah.
it's a bigger
Yeah,
word or some like
it's
complex
so
name.
stupid. It's
Yeah,
so
like it's
stupid.
so
It's just a
stupid.
good game of who can find something that has more letters and numbers
Yeah,
in it that most
I want
people
to
know.
ask like any of these niche high massing guys that like think they have like so much information. Like, yeah, come up on the pod. We'll ask you a few questions about it. Like, I doubt any of them will be able to understand any of the mechanisms or just like basic pharmacology for that. Like, how does fat loss cure? None of them will be able to do literally answer a single question.
Well, dude,
Well, yeah, because
go ahead, Matt.
go ahead.
Oh, I don't have anything.
I, I was just gonna say, I mean, it's because they're all like, basement lurking people who aren't actually buying, sourcing, or using any of this stuff, and there's no like outcomes. There's no you can't point to like any of these people who are like, oh, I was 5'6" and now I'm like 6'4" because I took some random like fucking like niche blood cancer treatment chemotherapy drug that inhibits like God, I don't even know, HDAC6. Like, no, that just doesn't exist. So there's
Yeah.
not even any anecdotal evidence that this stuff is going to get you the results you're looking for. So it's just plain and simple. Last thing that I'll say, or like main like general premise is if you want to grow taller, get a growth plate X-ray. If your growth plates are open, which is it's not like a binary yes or no, it's like a spectrum. If they're at all bit in any bit open, just run letrozole or Arimidex and HGH, plain and simple. It's the most proven, tried and true thing you can do.
Now, do you think there's anything we should perhaps use in that case to kind of protect the brain? Because I know, like, on your podcast with Molecular, you guys talked about like S-equal and some other.
Yeah, I was about to say that
Yeah.
S-equal is great.
Yeah, and another question I had. Sorry, Gunner, you wanted to go ahead?
Yeah, I was saying that another thing for the Heightmaxxing is like I'm not a big fan of crushing estrogen to like 5 picograms per milliliter. Obviously, I don't think it's horrible. I think androgens can still make up for a lot of like the bone loss or things that can occur at that. And the main thing
Mentally, though.
Yeah, but the main thing that's going to like have growth plates like fusion is gonna be the peaking of estradiol. So if you can mitigate that like to a huge degree by just taking even like you don't have to take like huge doses of letrozole and make your like E2 like literally
just keep it low reference range.
Yeah, like low reference range, just making sure that because the peaking of estradiol is what really completely fuses a plate, and so you can really extend it if you just really don't like your estriol ever peak.
Yeah.
And another thing is estradiol is needed for bone remodeling, and it increases bone density, and it increases IGF-1 conversion in the liver. So it's basically doing the opposite of everything you'd want to grow taller.
Yeah.
Apart from closing your growth plates.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to add is before we went into other topics is I was like I had like a bunch of papers and I was reading them last night because I made a full stack of like to make mitochondrial fat like just a full mitochondrial stack to optimize like free form fatty acids. And is it fine if I explain that right now?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, so like it's supposed to be so you have MOTS-C, SLU-PP332, and methylene blue. And MOTS-C helps with just like, for example, mitochondrial biogenesis through activation of like AMP kinase and a lot of things like that. It's also the transcribed version of like MOTS-C goes through RNA, and you can get new mitochondria through that. And necessarily like new mitochondria is good to an aspect too because it can hold on to more oxidative stress and stuff. But to make the new mitochondria like actual efficient, you would use SLU-PP332 to actually make them efficient and actually oxidize free-form fatty acids by liberating them out of a skeletal muscle and things like that. And then a lot of people didn't know, like, when you do like super long, like super high fast cardio, you burn mostly glucose. This is because your mitochondria can like optimize glucose dependent if oxygen is needed or not. But if you have a lot of oxygen, your body's like, say for a walk, you burn 90% fat because, or like a stage 2 cardio is because you have enough oxygen. So that's where methylene blue comes in, because oxygen is needed for mitochondria to use liberate fatty acids for energy. So in methylene blue increases the oxygen capacity of fatty acids and mitochondria. So you can just like literally use that stack and you would just like literally burn through fatty acids, especially if you have like things like breaking down hormone sensitive lipids like growth hormone. So like those 3 peptides will literally like enhance like literally anything. So you just oxidize like straight fatty acids.
Yeah.
And super low risk. And MOTS-C is interesting because a lot of people don't know, but it's endogenously produced peptides.
Metabolic stress or strenuous exercise in general. Like you can go increase your MOTS-C levels right now by literally just go sprinting for a second. You will endogenously like produce like 200% more MOTS-C.
Yeah.
And the thing is that there's another thing on MOTS-C, there's no studies of exogenous administration in humans. There's studies of exogenous administration in rats showing that it had some metabolically beneficial effects. But yeah, so the dosing with it is a little bit hypothetical, so to speak. Like we don't really know. And I tried to calculate it once just by like estimating average like serum blood volume in the body, and then kind of referencing that with some like MOTS-C blood tests and like healthy young adult males, and it seemed as though like 5 milligrams of MOTS-C was like a sweet spot that should like create a pretty significant like increase in your overall levels. But yeah, it's pretty hypothetical, like what the ideal
Yeah,
doses could be.
I
It's
was
just
actually looking, I was studying it this morning. They actually just started clinical trials in China with obese men on it, but the data hasn't been released yet. Like I was trying to look for it, and
Oh,
they started
really?
it like 2 or 3 months ago.
that's
And
exciting though.
I was looking for, and it was like date completion supposed to be estimated in 2027. So at least it's getting through clinical trials to a sense, and they're approving it on people that are like just obese men, not having some like special like genetic, you know what I mean, like polymorphism or something that's like makes a need for MOTS-c. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think another thing to add to that, I think, would be AMPK activators and high dose telmisartan. I
Yeah,
think,
PPAR.
yeah.
PPAR.
Well, actually, so here's the thing. I was looking quite deeply into telmisartan, and everyone talks about the PPAR gamma agonism
Yeah.
shifting the lipolytic capacity of adipose tissue. And I just really couldn't find evidence to support that, because what PPAR gamma does is it balances lipid storage in adipose tissue, right? And so just as it controls the lipolytic potential of adipose tissue, it also increases the lipogenesis, right? So it's a balance. It's a regulation of your lipid storage and the balance between lipolysis and lipogenesis. And I literally like went down this whole rabbit hole, and I'm just trying to figure it out. I'm like, what is going on? Like, where is the evidence that taking a PPAR gamma agonist would bias these fat adipose cells towards lipolysis, or in any way like shift the balance towards lipolysis? And I really could not find any evidence of that. But I did find that telmisartan is a PPAR delta agonist, and that PPAR delta agonism is actually what directly increases lipolysis. So everyone keeps talking about
Yeah.
yeah. So everyone keeps talking about how, take telmisartan for the PPAR gamma agonism, and they're posting all these studies of these, binding affinity, and you need this
It's so
nanomolar.
It's like so low.
Yeah, you need
Yeah,
this
then there's
like
no evidence that it actually does anything tangible for you. Also, real quick, I'm just gonna run to the bathroom. We'll be like 1 minute.
Go ahead. So
Yeah,
I was just
go
looking into this, and I realized that the actual lipolytic effect of telmisartan is completely dependent on PPAR delta. So if we could, and we don't have any binding affinity studies on this, and we don't have human pharmacokinetic studies on this that would show what nanomolar concentration in adipose tissue is actually reached with a particular dose of telmisartan. But we do know that telmisartan burns visceral fat, but it doesn't change body composition, right? So the only real use case for telmisartan that I can find, other than just running a high dose, 160 milligrams, 320 milligrams, and like hoping for the best, right, would be using it sort of just as like an adjunct treatment to have to increase the lipolytic capacity of this adipose tissue, and to shift these cells towards hopefully a more lipolytic state. But we really don't know. So I think that the whole contention of using PPAR gamma agonists as fat burners is completely and utterly unproven. It's like a biohacking myth, right? And the only potential here for telmisartan is from PPAR delta, which it is proven to agonize PPAR
Yeah,
delta.
that's the effects of like how cardarine is a fat loss agent.
Yes.
Yeah, and I can't remember. I've watched videos. I can't forget, but I think that it does. The real benefit of telmisartan is that it's metabolically neutral or good in a sense. Like, you know what I mean?
Yes,
like a lot of the
it has a lot of metabolic effects for sure.
Yeah, like a lot of the other ARBs, like Lolastar and Velastar, and like all of the other ones, from what I've seen, are like metabolically like negative in a sense, but very, very minutely in a sense. But telmisartan is the only one. Same like Nebivolol, like the beta 2 blockers. It's the only one that's like signified in actual cardiac tissue. You know what I mean? So it's not going to be, obviously, I don't think it's the best for, it's a little bit not the best for holding on to fat, because beta 2 adrenaline receptors on a lot of fat cells. But if you're,
I think you might be talking about another beta blocker, because I don't think Nebivolol has any affinity for beta 2. It's very selective to beta 1.
I completely mixed up. I had clenbuterol in my head for some reason. Yeah, but I'm saying that it's able to like only do that in cardiac muscle. And I think it's one of like the beta, like one of the only beta ones that's able to like really just signify one part of the body. And I think telmisartan has that same benefit. It's also like kidney protective. Like it has a bunch of other benefits.
Insulin sensitivity, like a bunch of different things. Yeah. So
I also wanted to go into DHB next, and we'll see what
DHB. Oh yeah, we
yeah.
can see what Matt says about DHB.
I hate DHB. I hate it.
Yeah, Matt, what are your
Yeah,
thoughts on
I'm on the
DHB?
same page as Gunner. I think it's just like there's no context in which it makes sense to use unless you're just trying to like experiment under the under the thought process of like maybe there's no data, but it's possible that it's better. So I'm just going to use it to see and just kind of go off my own anecdote. But at least like from the science that we have of it, there's no unique mechanism to it that would make it better than any other steroid. It's never been marketed for any use really. So there's just a lack of research on it. So people are just kind of relying on bodybuilding anecdotes and just kind of like, oh, this is cool. It doesn't aromatize, it's dry. That's basically the thought process, I guess. Like I can throw this on top of cats or whatever, and I don't have to worry about adding in anything for estrogen control. And what I was sending Gunner is a little tidbit, a little study quote that when I read this, immediately dismissed it, which I'll read it out right now, which is, this is a rat study, because again, like I don't even think there's any human studies on DHB at all. But in vivo, an equimolar dose of DHB has the same potency to stimulate growth of the prostate, the seminal vesicles, and the androgen-sensitive levator ani muscle as the reference anabolic steroid testosterone propionate. But unlike testosterone propionate, 1-testosterone, aka DHB, also increased liver weight. And again, I'm just going to say this because a lot of people will fucking argue to the death about DHB. And some people will say like, oh, 1-testosterone, they reference that in scientific literature to refer to this other steroid. No, this specific study was dihydroboldenone. So I know I said 1-testosterone, but I did confirm it's specifically dihydroboldenone, because people will argue to the fucking grave and use any like bad faith argument they can to try and justify this shit. And basically the consensus there is that it does everything testosterone does to the same degree in these rats, except that it also is more liver toxic.
No, I actually remember these. This is equivalent doses, milligram. There's 100 milligrams equivalent to body weight, or 100 milligrams of testosterone propionate, 100 milligrams of DHB. And they had testosterone actually resulted in more actual muscle tissue gain. And then DHB, which literally had less tissue gain, but significantly grew the liver, like significantly, not like a small amount where it was like a little bit, like it was huge. And then another thing that I wanted to add on this is that this is an anecdotal report, but I was talking to another coach, and he was coaching a guy that was around like 23, and he used DHB for he used DHB for a year straight, 100 milligrams a week. And his AST was 3,044, and his liver failed. He literally had to get his liver literally failed.
Just from DHB?
Yeah, he was literally running testosterone, DHB, and growth hormone.
Wow.
Oh
and that's
God.
why we don't use shit that just doesn't have any study. Like, if you could point me to something like, oh, hey, this like, there was a binding affinity done on this, and it's like a super potent antagonist at the glucocorticoid receptor. I'm like, great, cool. There's like a potential hypothetical thing that it can offer that you can't get from other steroids, or maybe that it does better than other steroids. But like, I think let's just take it and compare it to, running Primo or EQ, and then subsequently bumping up your test in conjugation to that, just to, make sure that your E2 is balanced. Like, can anyone give me a single thing that DHB does that you can't get from either Primo or EQ, and then, the necessary dose of testosterone to support that? Like, nothing. It's what we were talking about earlier with the nootropics, with the height stuff. It's just shiny object syndrome, new steroid, like it's just, and I'll read you guys. Let me try and find this, because I actually think this is quite funny. I'll read you guys a conversation I was having with some dude in a Telegram steroid group, and this kind of just summarizes the thought process of a lot of, because we're kind of making fun of the younger groups being like, who are lazy with the cardio and just kind of like, the Heightmaxxing groups and stuff. But there's also, you have like the classic like
Meso-RX unks.
Yeah, Meso-RX unks, bodybuilder guys. And like, I think those are the people who, DHB is like most popular with. I would say like they're really hard to defend that. And it's like, this guy was asking me about DHT enanthate, and I was like, oh yeah, here you can find it here. It's kind of expensive. What do you want DHT for? He says, cool compound, anabolic as fuck. I say, in muscle tissue or prostate? He says, LMAO for real. I don't know. I like niche shit. And I was like, oh, what do you notice from it? Haven't noticed anything. Just looking to try it more. And then I said, just be aware that DHT cannot bind to the nuclear androgen receptor in a way that transcribes muscle growth because of the 3-AHSD enzyme. And then his response was, just wanted to see if I can find it and grow muscle on it. Compounds are like Pokemon, for real. I swear, guys, this is a real conversation. And that's like how some of these people think, oh, cool, new thing. Let me try that. Oh, DHT. Oh, wow, this is going to build me so much muscle.
So dumb. Oh
Yeah,
my
no,
God.
Obviously, it's not that bad, but it's the point when you're experimenting with your body. Like this wouldn't be bad in like any other sport when you're
no, exactly. Like
only have rat studies, then it's going to be insanely negative to your health. Like this would be fine in any other sport I want to get into.
This is a fine thought process of like, oh, hey, let me try this new brand of soccer cleats. Maybe I'll be able to like kick the ball better. Like, okay, great. Worst case scenario, you know, you waste money on some cleats and they're not as good. Like, great, but you know, you're putting shit in your body, and people are just so la-di-da about it. Like, really, what it boils down to is just any kind of methodology or thought process that doesn't pertain to just science and reading the studies and using like common sense from that is just garbage. And I think, you know, most people don't really have that thought process or that approach, and that's where these issues kind of stem from.
But bro, dimethyltren, it's like so anabolic. it's gonna make you you know, so dimorphic. It's like, let's use dimethyltren.
What's the other one? There's
THG.
There's dimethyl.
There's THG.
Yeah, no, not THG. It's there's methyltren, and there's one other. Starts with an R. I'm forgetting. It's like more potent than M-tren.
Really?
Oh, I know that methyltranolone on like binding affinity assays
Yeah,
is like R1881, or I think R1881.
Yeah.
That's just that's the same CAS number as methyltren. And then there's dimethyltren.
No, I think it's mebolarone or something.
Yeah,
like
so
that.
mebolarone I don't think is R1. So R1881 I think is the like typically referred to chemical name for methyltrianolone on like the binding.
Metrobolone. That's what it is. Metrobolone.
Yeah, metrobolone or mebolarone, otherwise known as check drops, is probably.
But I think metrobolone is different than methyltrenbolone, no? Or
yeah,
maybe I'm wrong.
Dude, I get them so confused. I'm not gonna lie. I think metrobolone is methyltrianolone, and then mebolarone is check drops.
Yeah, no, these are two separate compounds. So there's dimethyltrianolone, which is, I guess, M-tren, I think, and then there's metrobolone. The one I remember looking at these briefly, and one interesting thing I at least, you know, and this is like just to further discredit DHT, like at least with these weird kind of like 19-nor, obscure 19-nors like metrobolone and dimethyltrianolone, like they both have extremely potent affinities at the glucocorticoid and mineralocorticoid receptor, like more stronger of an antagonist there than tren. And obviously, in my opinion, this is like garbage that's not worth running. But yeah, trenbolone is like 2.9 affinity at the GR, and then what is it? Dimethyltrianolone is 22. So it's literally
are people running that?
Fuck, I'm not good with math, but 11 times higher. I don't know. It's not very common.
I know multiple people that have run methyltranolone, but I don't know a single person that's run dimethyltren or.
A lot of the thing, like the side effects occur, like you can't have like, obviously cortisol is needed for cortisol is a substrate for gluconeogenesis. Like cortisol is like there's hormones in your body for a reason. When you completely like drop serum cortisol or corticosterone levels so harsh, that's where literally a lot of the side effects come from tren, is because you're dropping glucocorticoid and you're like inhibitioning them so hard that a lot of things downstream effect happen like negative with that. And I cannot imagine that something that's 11 times stronger than that is not going to drop serum cortisol levels. Like there's no way gluconeogenesis can occur with something like that.
Well, I don't think tren lowers cortisol in serum. I think it's just preventing it from binding to muscle. Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting because Anavar obviously has the same property. Some people report like a little bit of anxiety from Anavar. I've heard that a few times. My theory with that is it doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier as well. So it's blocking cortisol from binding to the GR in muscle, freeing up more cortisol, and then it has a higher affinity for muscle than like brain GR. So then it's just kind of like disbalancing it in a way where there's a bit more cortisol in the brain. Kind of a random theory, but I know Tren is very potent at crossing the blood-brain barrier, so that issue would not be the case with Tren. So kind of explains the discrepancy there, perchance.
Well, then you could, in that case, I think you could just take phosphatidylserine, which has some pretty decent anxiolytic effects in the sense of just cortisol. But I mean, I haven't really heard of like people like getting what's going on over there, Matt?
I apologize. So just give me 1 second.
Okay. I like Matt. I was like, I don't think I said anything that funny. But anyway, yeah, I didn't know about that with Anavar, that people report a lot of anxiety on it. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I was running 25 mgs a day in my cut. I mean, I only really noticed benefits from it. My AST didn't really go out of the reference range. I mean, I'm like genetically German, so like
is that when your HDL had gone down? Was from the
yeah. But my HDL was like, I think it was like 28, 29. I wasn't really low at all, and I wasn't even using any Nikin or like anything like that. I wasn't using or nice, or how do you say niacin, right?
Niacin, but that's the thing. I don't even think niacin is like really doing anything positive for people anyway.
Improving your HDL with like niacin, citric bergamot, anything like that, it's not actually adding longevity to your life.
Yeah, but I think fenofibrate, it like would actually be beneficial. Like if you crash your HDL,
maybe cardarine too, because it does it with the cardiac tissue with improved HDL. But
I think there's kind of some complexities there with like what actually is happening when you're like artificially raising your HDL, and we're not seeing any link to like increased longevity. So I think there's kind of like, I don't know, maybe more research needs to be done there, but
yeah.
Well, I know HDL is not really, having like slightly out of the reference range low HDL is not a major concern. Obviously not ideal, and if you could fix it, you should with ancillaries, but it's not a major concern provided that your LDL-C is low. It's really when the LDL-C or LDL gets high, and then you subsequently have low HDL. And I've had pretty bad damn near like 4 to 5 on blood work at some point with orals. So yeah, and with fibrates, some of them are a little bit tricky. I know with the PPAR alpha, some of them will like raise HDL and then also raise LDL or raise triglycerides. So you get it's not across the board beneficial for lipids, and with obviously heart disease is like one of the leading causes of death in America. I know with pharmaceutical companies, at least the standard in America is the drug cannot just lower or raise obviously lower LDL or raise HDL on blood work. They have to actually prove that it increases like cardiovascular mortality outcomes as well, because there's different types of HDL and LDL, like the different particles and stuff like that, and that actually plays quite a big role in whether or not it's going to, because obviously it's nice to see the number improve on blood work, but it's not the full picture. Like LDL-C is really what you're worried about. And this is something interesting I wanted to bring up. I don't know if you've heard about, either of you guys have heard about these, but a couple of interesting potential like LDL drugs. Acipimox is one of them, which is like a niacin derivative. And another one is Seladelpar, which is PPAR delta. But it's, I know cardarine, obviously the cancer risk, but I think I'm pronouncing it right, but it's Seladelpar. Basically. Sorry?
Do you think it'll be better than ezetimibe?
I don't know what the LDL reduction is. I mean, ezetimibe is pretty weak in reducing
it's 10
LDL,
to 15% from ezetimibe across the literature.
Yeah. Yeah. So this Seladelpar, basically, it's FDA approved, and it's a PPAR delta agonist. So obviously cardarine was never FDA approved for obvious reasons. This is the same mechanism as cardarine, but it is FDA approved for some kind of hyperlipidemia issue. So potentially just a safer version of cardarine.
Yeah, interesting. And another thing about both statins and fibrates can cause idiosyncratic rhabdomyolysis, and I don't think we even know the cause of that. So, like, and so that's something I would say. Like, I don't think statins should be fear-mongered, right? If your LDL is 186, you
They were
you got a
super
lot you got a lot higher risk of the dyslipidemia than you do with taking like a low dose of rosuvastatin, and bring your LDL back into range. And but both the statins, like I said, and fibrates, fenofibrate, for example, could cause rhabdomyolysis, which is like this very like freak kidney disease that I recently put Orbitropin on TikTok. It put him in the hospital. And he tried to say that. Well, I'm not going to speak for him, but he did say that it wasn't caused by steroids. But I would want to ask him, like, are you on statins? Are you on fibrates? These are like some idiosyncratic diseases that can come from that. So, maybe stacking like multiple lipid rectifying drugs together that could potentially cause like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, these weird kidney diseases.
And
Yeah.
if you're really worried about that, for statins, the safer pathway would just be bempedoic acid, which is sometimes used
Mhm.
with a statin. But if you just want to avoid statins for whatever reason, no, another thing is statin. I forget what the A stands for, but it's statin muscle something something, like basically just a muscle pain that some
Oh yeah,
people refer to
SAMS.
statins.
SAMS, I think it
SAMS,
is.
yeah,
Yeah.
SAMS. I just forgot what the letters stand for, but SAMS is what it's called. If you're super OCD about that, or the other stuff, because I know some people say it's like mitochondrial toxic or something. I don't really buy into much of that. I think it's just good thing to throw in tons of data on it.
Yeah.
But if you care about that, you can use bempedoic acid. It's kind of like a similar pathway, but it's selective in the liver. Obviously, if you can get your hands on it, go
Yeah.
freaking rob your local Walmart for some Repatha, your local CVS pharmacy or whatever. Don't do that. That's a joke. But if you can get Repatha, then that's great. Or and you can stack that. I mean, you can stack so much of this stuff too, and really. But it's like, to what extent should you have to do that? Probably not. Probably not. You should unless you're like, obviously your APO type polymorphism is going to play a big role in it. But like, you shouldn't need 10 different things to get your freaking LDL in range. And a lot of this, again, just boils down to cardio, diet, and like some basic supplements and basic ancillaries, And another thing, like Retta's great at lowering LDL too.
Yeah. And another thing with statins, I did read a study that linked SAMS with depleted CoQ10. So,
Oh
uh,
yeah, that's
It's
you can use
mitochondrial.
CoQ10 5. Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Because
So,
statins will deplete CoQ10. Yeah, that was the mechanism. Thank you for
yeah.
pointing that out. And there's some statins have a lower risk of it. So like pitavastatin and rosuvastatin, I believe, are the lowest risk for SAMs.
Yeah.
It's so funny to be like, the carnivore group that think like LDL has zero impact on heart disease.
Oh yeah.
It's so funny to me that like in any time you go into a negative state of health, that your LDL spikes up, your HDL tanks, but they think that somehow that eating 400 grams of saturated fat just immunes them to this. Like, it's so funny to
Yeah.
me.
Dude, they're apparently in a Face IQ's course. There were a few people that
Oh
had
God.
LDL over 300, and he was like, "You're good, man. It's all good." Like,
No, Face IQ. That's how you can
Face
kind of know,
low
like,
IQ, yeah.
you can kind of see it kind of grifting, because he went from no carbs at all to fructose. So like sugar is half fructose, half glucose, and fructose is usually negative to your health over a certain capacity. And he went complete from zero carb to eat 600 grams of fructose a day.
He's a bad faith actor. Like I've had a couple debates with him on Discord, and I mean, I don't want to really throw shade at the guy, but I don't really care. I remember one time he said salt is toxic, like sodium salt is toxic, or it was something like sodium is toxic but salt isn't, or salt is toxic but sodium isn't, or like our ancestors didn't drink or didn't add salt to their food. It's like a cardiotoxin. This is all, anything that derives, all these people and everything they preach derives from the thought process that somehow like what humans did, like hundreds and hundreds of years ago, has some kind of scientific merit, and that should supersede actual like scientific research that's been done now. Anything that is of the agenda, that like anything that says this supersedes scientific research. It's garbage, and it's like a cult. It's like a
Oh, dude,
conspiracy
like
theory.
Godus, you'll watch a Godus video and
Godus.
he'll literally contradict himself 10 times in the same video. And you have someone else talk to him and like say, "Oh, you didn't say this right." He's like, "I don't." They funded that study. Like he can contradict himself. You show him a study where it's like he'll always say like that's not proved, whatever. You'll show him a study being approved. You go, "That's funded." Like there is zero way of winning with these people.
Yeah, that's funded by like big you know, big anti-primal whatever. And it's like another thing Goodis was like oh, the mitochondria is a religion, it doesn't exist. Like I thought that was so funny, dude. Oh my god. Yeah, I mean, you could call them grifters, but it's like not even like Godis is doing it for money. It's almost just like a religious thing, you know what I mean? Like
That's what I didn't want to say religion because I didn't want to offend anyone. And I said cult, but it's like but you're basically creating a religion because you're saying science doesn't exist. This supersedes science. So yeah, I guess your religion is eating like fatty sludge and milk fat and animal fat, and then looking like shit and having like a 25%, 20% body fat physique, and then flexing your natty test levels on blood work and claiming to be like the most masculine man on the planet.
You guys know
It's garbage. It's garbage.
What, Gunner?
You guys know Augustus Fitz Plan? Do you guys know that like
Jonas or whatever his name is?
Yeah. So his story, like this guy, he was apparently like he had gut cancer, and somehow he said he cured the cancer by drinking raw carrot juice, and literally like beta carotene, which is found in carrots, is the only vitamin that's associated with actual cancer. So that happens, and then he starts riding bikes across the USA, and a pack of wolves stops him, and they bite a rabbit open and make him eat it in front of them to satisfy him. This is apparently what he claimed, and this is like tribal people literally worship him. And then so he does that, and then he has a vision or epiphany like while he's sleeping that you have to eat raw primal to like save all diseases. And so he sets up like a table in Venice Beach and like he makes a book about the raw primal lifestyle, and he puts PhD on it, like made with a PhD, and he never went to college or anything. Like he's like just grifting that he's a doctor.
Is that not illegal?
That's not a religion.
People worship him, dude. It's so funny.
If that's not a religion, I don't know what is.
Yeah, no, it's 100%
garbage.
That literally fits the descriptive of someone that's being a con man. He's lying about his credentials, and he's literally just making up stuff that goes through. No wolf is stopping you while you're writing your book and making you eat a dead rabbit to satisfy them. Do you really gonna believe someone that claims that happened to them?
Yeah, my favorite is when like you're getting into a debate with someone and you like bring up a study and they go, "Oh, that's in vitro. That's in vitro. That's not good data." And you're like, "All right, here's an in vivo study." And they're like, "Oh, that's not in humans. So, you know, I don't like that." I'm like, "Okay, here's a human study with good methodology, and it's very rigorous, and it's got a sample size of 600, placebo controlled. Like, what do you want?" And they go, "Well, that's funded by the Jews." And you're like, "All right." You just have to throw your hands up and be like,
well,
they're
not like open to other opinions. So anything you say that contradicts their belief, they're just gonna look for whatever counter argument they can, you know, come up with, instead of just looking at it objectively of like, oh, is that possible? Maybe let's look at the science. It's like, no, let's look for anything I can say to invalidate the claim.
Yeah.
I also want to know that Auginus, he fell off like a top of a rooftop in Thailand, and he had internal bleeding and would not let the doctors operate on him because he was going to fix it himself. And then he died from that because obviously he didn't fix internal bleeding by eating raw food. And then his followers say that the CIA or government pushed him off the cliff and killed him somehow. Like there is just they literally like some of them, they just make up stuff on the spot to like praise him.
Yeah, and then Godus threw acid on like his ex-wife or whatever.
Yeah, and he tried actually, I don't know if I can say that, but he tried to kill people at his school multiple times.
We're on YouTube, so we can be a little bit less censored than on TikTok.
Yeah, no, he tried to shoot up school, and then he apparently, you can't say this, but grape a girl too. So
Jesus.
These are people that are literally mentally insane and just lying.
That's
and
crazy.
Like they're literally insane, and people worship them.
So I just have one more topic that I wanted to bring up. So Matt, I know that you talk about both like dutasteride in some of your videos about the benefits for skin and hair, but I know you also have, you know, like your friend Chris Primo and like some of the neurosteroid research, like the niche neurosteroid research to sort of like rescue some of that, you know, the lack of 5-alpha reductase and those downstream metabolites. So if you were to give like a theoretical stack with maybe someone
Mhm.
who's struggling with the like mental effects or maybe the sort of like lack of libido, seminal volume, things like that that are associated with dutasteride. Would you be able to just point to a couple like neurosteroid compounds or something similar that you think would benefit people there?
Yeah, great question. So my friend Chris actually made a really good post, a really good write-up on this. Basically, the main thing recommended is androsterone, which is a neurosteroid, which seems to have like similar GABA A modulation and kind of like a lot of the effects that you lose when you lose the two 5-AR conversion metabolites, which are 5-A-diol and allopreg. It seems to kind of fulfill some of the same effects as that. So that's one thing is androsterone. Another thing is, you know, I mean, the general premise is both of those two things, you know, 5-A-diol and allopreg that you lose, the two you know, metabolites. They're both GABA A PAMs. So that's probably like the downstream receptor that's getting affected there. So I would say, you know, you could use something like etifoxine as a GABA A PAM to kind of you know, make up for that gap there. You know, I've seen some stuff like pregnenolone oral or like DHEA oral. I don't really think that works. You could try like you know, some form of like injectable allopreg. There was a great thing called zuranolone, a great drug called zuranolone, which seemed to like pretty much fully counter the whole deficit there. Unfortunately, so it was developed and researched for postmenopausal depressive disorder, and so for some reason, it did get approved for that, but for some reason it got scheduled as like a Schedule 4 drug, so it's like not sourceable at all. But that theoretically would totally rectify it because it was basically oral bioavailable allopregnanolone. Um,
Uh,
but yeah, it's not available unfortunately. So yeah, the next best thing I would say would be you know, something like androsterone or some kind of GABA A PAM like etifoxine. HCG, you know, would theoretically very much so help with that, with some of the neurosteroid gaps, not necessarily from dutasteride, but from just being on TRT in general.
Mm-hmm.
So, and at least personally, like anecdotally, I noticed it kind of brought back what it felt like dutasteride slash testosterone might have taken away, if anything, which I personally am of the belief that it doesn't really, you know, if you're on exogenous androgens, I don't think it's really going to have any like significant tangible effect, like very negligible. But yeah, I would just look into androsterone, potentially, or like etifoxine would be my two things.
Cool. Yeah.
I also wanted to add that you can get around. So there is pregnenolone is converted into 5-alpha pregnenolone, and then 3-hydroxy converts it into allopregnenolone. And what I found is you can literally just because the 5-hour enzyme is blocking the actual conversion into 5-hour reduced pregnenolone. So you can just supplement this. Is you can buy. I don't want to tell people to buy it, but this is not medical. But you can buy 5-AR pregnenolone or 5-AR reduced pregnenolone, and then you don't. It'll reduce into 3-hydroxy allopregnenolone. Like you knock two out with one because you're not blocking the
Oh, really?
3-hydroxy. Yeah, so you're only when you block 5-AR, you're blocking the 5-AR reduced version of pregnenolone. So then it no longer can convert into the allopregnenolone versus the 3-hydroxy. So you can just bypass this by doing the 5-AR reduced version of allopregnenolone, which is
Yeah, because I think
5-AR.
so. A lot of people they supplement DHEA and pregnenolone sort of as like, oh, this is like the basic neurosteroid combo that's like sold on
Yeah,
Amazon.
no, it's just not bioavailable.
Yeah,
You
and
can
this,
try micronized preg maybe or
yeah,
something like that.
yeah, but
You
also it
know,
won't even like if you're completely inhibiting 5-AR, it wouldn't even convert into allopregnanolone downstream anyway. So, you would pretty
yeah,
much miss the target there. And also DHEA is not inhibited in any way by dutasteride either because
it's
it's
just that's just
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
completely upstream of testosterone as well. So, that would just be like, I think kind of pointless there. Maybe some people get benefits, but I think
I've
it misses the
seen
mark.
you can buy injectable allopreg. I've seen that actually. So
Yeah.
theoretically that could do it.
Yeah,
Or
and then like androsterone and anthate I've seen as well.
yeah.
Like estered versions of these neurosteroids, like pretty interesting. So,
Matt,
Yeah, I mean,
you can buy the 5-AR reduced version of progesterone, which is 5-AR pregnenolone, and then it converts to allopregnanolone V3 hydroxide. So like if you get in both of them modulate GABA A. So like just use the first one and that will endogenously convert to allopregnanolone.
is that injectable, Gunner,
yeah, injectable. You can buy injectable.
Interesting.
I mean, it's like how much of it even like worth to you? Like me personally,
Yeah, I mean,
don't really notice anything. I'm not gonna. If you are, yeah, I would say so. But in
Yeah.
general, it's mostly fear mongered.
Yeah, well, I would say like a natural taking dutasteride and
Yeah. Oh,
someone
yeah.
enhanced,
Exactly.
it's like completely
It's going to be
different.
night and day. Yeah. But
Yeah.
if you're natural, like you don't, I mean, you should still use it, but much less of a need.
Yeah, so like the typical, claim is that like DHT is 10 times more androgenic than testosterone, but if you have 10 times the testosterone in your body as a natural, then like what difference does it
Exactly.
even make? Your androgen
And
load is
let
quite high.
alone other steroids that
Yeah.
can, very well fulfill the androgenic signaling of DHT.
Yeah, for
It's really
sure.
just literally just GABA A, so just anything that can rectify
Yeah,
that.
and the amount of people that are actually affected by like the drop in GABA A signaling is really, really low. So like the amount of people are going to actually benefit by like
A lot of
supplementing.
it's placebo,
Yeah,
I would say. Yeah.
Dude, I got noceboed so hard by finasteride, man. I felt terrible.
Really.
Yeah, it was bad. Like,
Yeah,
and but
go
the
ahead.
thing
Go
is,
ahead.
I switched to topical finasteride, and of course, like if you look at the studies, there's less systemic potency, but it does still drop your serum DHT by about the same amount, right? So even though it's not going nearly as deeply systemic, it's still the amount of it that is in there has high affinity and is able to block essentially the same amount of 5-AR, right? But on topical finasteride, like all my side effects went away. So even if it was like nocebo, I do find that if you do have like nocebo, like good luck trying to like rewire your brain with like reprogramming to try and like make you not have a placebo or nocebo effect. You know what I mean? Because it's like kind of psychological or psychosomatic or whatever. But yeah, and then so I've gone over this with a lot of people. Like HCG, I think is really great for like the mood enhancement, and also like I think there is some insecurity with. So there's like the side effects of finasteride and dutasteride of decreased seminal volume, which I think kind of leads to like an insecurity kind of thing. HCG completely like reverses that as well. So there's
And then
like
the peripheral neurosteroid signaling, the
yeah.
LHCGR
Mm-hmm.
agonism.
Yeah, for sure. So there's like a lot of different things HCG can accomplish there. Yeah, so I think we covered that pretty well. Anything else you guys want to talk about?
No, I think we covered it. We covered a lot of
I think
stuff.
we covered a lot. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
this was
For
great though.
sure.
Just a good like scatter of information for you guys. Anything related to biohacking? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
you know what? Actually, let me see. There's a couple because I know
Oh,
both me and Gunner made stories for Q&A. So let me
Oh
just
yeah.
I'll do a couple of these. We can do a couple of these questions. I do have to run pretty soon, but I don't mind going through a couple of these. Most of these questions I'm not gonna respond to just because they're fucking stupid questions, not even worth addressing. But here's one: can low dose VAR be used year round, 25 milligrams for collagen? There's no studies using it for a year, so you will run into liver problems at 25 milligrams, no doubt there. So I would not use Anavar like as a long-term solution to like just increasing skin collagen. Obviously, it's great for that short term, but just being on orals year round is completely ridiculous. I know Anavar is not one of the most harsh ones, but I would not recommend it.
I actually remember that in a study, the Anavar only increased collagen type 1 and type 3 for the first like 6 weeks, and then there's just a drastic decrease in actual collagen. So
Yeah, not the most effective for that either.
Yeah.
Let's see. When you talk about test being bad as a primary compound, what would be some preferred primary compound such cycles that are drier? So I'm not suggesting you shouldn't use testosterone. Obviously, you need it as a base for any cycle, you know, unless you're really being experimental. But I'm saying like using it as your primary driver of like, you know, 500 plus milligrams. I would say you're better off doing, you know, something like as much test as you can tolerate with your estrogen being at a reasonable range. And then past that point, you can add you know, something like a tren, or, you know, you can add primo and then a increase of testosterone in subsequence to that, or EQ or mast, and then bump up the tren, or sorry, the testosterone accordingly. Best protocol for chronic stress, benzo alternative, no pre-gab baclofen. Yeah, definitely don't do pre-gab or baclofen for chronic stress. GB115 is great. MAOIs can be great for chronic stress, depending on which one. Etifoxine can be great. I mean, there's a lot of really good anxiolytics. There's no propranolol I wouldn't use just because it kind of fucks your metabolism a bit. But nebivolol honestly can be, you know, it's not going to do too much for it, but it'll lower your resting heart rate, which might help with chronic stress. But yeah, no, GB115 is great for that. Mitigate clotting risk. I would use nattokinase and pentoxifylline.
Oh yeah, two great ones. That'd be my same answer. Oh, I got one. What are the most optimal diuretics? I would say, you know, for most people, just on like your typical testosterone, would really, you know, if you're getting heavily bloated, first thing you do is regulate your E2. And then if you're still getting quite bloated, I would think a Clarinone is a pretty safe bet for most people. You know, you try 25 milligrams. If it doesn't work, 50 milligrams. That should usually hit its target. And then you, of course, want to monitor your potassium levels when you get your CMP. Just make sure you're not going hyperkalemic. And then beyond that, indapamide. And then if you're using GH, a diuretic-like compound would be empagliflozin, which helps you excrete glucose instead of sodium. That can be quite beneficial as well, since you know, GH is working through a different mechanism. So those would be my big three. I'd stay away from loops for the most part, and you know, you can look into, like, there's like finerenone, which is like more selective for MR. There's other niches to that, but I would just stick to that, like those three. Yeah, HCTZ and indapamide are pretty comparable. I just like indapamide a bit better, but
Metabolically better, yeah.
Yeah. So look, I got another one. How would you structure carb cycling on a mass phase versus cutting phase? Example, maintenance is 3K. I don't really want to give you like exact numbers, but just like off the top of my head. But I would say that, you know, obviously you're gonna want to go like quite a bit higher on your like training days. So if you train 5 days a week, you know, you could put like 200 grams of carbs before and after, not each, but like 200 grams carbs total around your workouts, and then like 50 grams of carbs like throughout the rest of the day. And on your, you know, rest days, you could go only like 100 grams of carbs during those days. So that is something like that. That's just like a rough guess, but I don't know if you guys have specific thoughts on that.
I have this one, like best bulking cycle that doesn't affect health as much. I would say probably just like maybe bioidentical compounds, just like probably testosterone pretty high, then a decent amount of growth hormone. You could even go up to like a decent amount to cause like hyperplasia, things like that, if you're really bulking, and then maybe some short acting slim just around workouts for nutrient partitioning. But I would say if you're going to stick to overall just like health regards, that just stick to bioidentical compounds, and then you could maybe add in some like type of primo and stuff. But if you're just trying to do things like with health, I would say stick to bioidentical overall.
All right, guys. I appreciate you coming on board. I'll obviously put that back at the beginning, but Matt.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, dude, it was so great. Seriously, like it was awesome. I really appreciate you coming on. Same with you, Gunner.
Dude, this has been great. I appreciate the invite, and always, you know, anytime you guys want to have me, I'm always happy to hop on. Or if you ever want to do like TikTok Q&A lives or anything like that.
Yes, sir. Yeah, dude, that was great that last time. So yeah, this has been awesome, man. We covered a lot of really important topics, I think, and people are gonna love this shit. Yeah, man. Of course. All right, guys. You guys have a good night.
Awesome.
Take it easy.
Yeah, you as well. Take care, guys.
See ya.